Intersection Magazine Podcast.
Welcome to Intersection Magazine Podcast. This episode today is being recorded from Karavelli, Kampala, in Lumumba Avenue, and my guest is Fredrick Kyomya. I met Fredrick about maybe 4 or 5 years ago at an event hosted by Hive Collab. It was an expo, and he had a booth where he was talking about his confidence app. And of course, he has done a lot more in terms of ever since that first conversation. He, for example, is head right now of the Kyomya Group. He's written several books. He's worked in media, as a communication specialist, quite a number of fields. So I hope you guys enjoy this interview or this conversation that we'll have with him. And then hopefully you'll connect with him. Now, in the future, we will also feature him in a magazine to kind of share his insights in the field that he's in. And then you can benefit a lot more and get a wholesome experience in terms of the podcast, the magazine, as well as a lot more, probably featuring some of his publications and his books. So thank you very much for listening and for subscribing. And we look forward to interacting with you. Hey, Fredrick, thank you very much for agreeing to be part of this podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, it's been a long time since we last met. Now, what have you been up to?
Hi. It's been a while, actually, 5-6 years now. Thank you again for having me on this podcast. Currently, I have been working during a startup. Okay, so I've been working on my startup called Ploy.ai. What we do is we help connect employers to potential employees and also give employees resources to help them with their CVs and stuff like that.
Okay. Speaking of which, about 2 or 3 years ago, I was experimenting with the possibility of hiring for a small group that I run. And I tried using 2 platforms. One, of course, was LinkedIn, and they have a free feature that allows you to advertise. And there was another one, I suppose it's better I don't mention who they were, but they were offering a service for, I think it was $300K, and they'd put your advert out there, but then they wouldn't let you communicate directly with those who were potential hires. The LinkedIn version of employment search and options was free, was able to communicate with some of the people that were potential hires. So, I mean, I was surprised how much potential there was in this space. And I ended up writing an article about the employee employment space. So what are some of the spaces that you've identified or the needs that you've identified that you're fulfilling in a unique way?
Okay, well, I think for us, we have tried to keep it centered on the African context.
Okay.
So operating in the East African region. Mm-hmm. And we found that, as great as LinkedIn is, it doesn't necessarily cater to our context here in East Africa. Okay. So you find a lot of the positions, they're looking for people who have maybe US citizenship, UK citizenship, especially if it's a remote role.
Okay.
So we came together and tried to create, an African solution, because I think a lot of young people are just kind of fall to the wayside because there's a really big gap in that space.
Okay. One of the things that I noticed they have the standard things that you have for a job interview is they expect you to have like some kind of intro, and then of course your CV, and then some kind of skill test. Do you have a that kind of feature, or is it necessary? What are your views about that particular uh, uh, part of the application?
I think a skill test is very necessary because it's really easy right now to make a CV. So we are actually working on a tool where we can pick out your best skills and allow you to demonstrate those skills.
Okay.
So we find that a lot of younger employers really want people who can demonstrate some skills.
Okay. Okay. Your application has the AI. Does it have a like artificial intelligence component to it in terms of the name, or is it just it's just part of the name?
So we are incorporating AI features into it, especially, as we get more volumes of applications, stuff like that. We will obviously need to be able to pick out the fake CVs. And so we are incorporating that so that we can do things in a timely manner. Yeah.
What does the landscape look like in terms of how many employees do you have? How many people do you have subscribed? Is it a subscription service? What kind of model do you have?
Yeah, so right now, to register as an employee is free. So if you're a person looking for a job and you want to use some of our resources, we do have some free resources for you.
Okay.
Also, applications are free. We do charge employers to be on site. And the reason for this is especially for more technical roles, you have to take the time to do background check, make sure that these people are who they say they are, have the qualifications that they have. And so that takes some time and some expertise. So, yeah, for right now, we do charge employers who are posting on there. And we also have a retainer fee for people who, just kind of want us to deal with the whole thing.
So that's right now. Can you give us a walkthrough in terms of some of your first projects and your experiences? I noticed that you had an intern role at Next Media. Was Mornings with Fredrick a podcast? It says you were a host of something called Mornings with Fredrick. Tell us about your journey there. What was that about?
Yes, so Mornings with Fredrick was kind of I wouldn't say it was a fully fledged podcast, but it was just kind of a thing that I was testing out at the time.
Okay.
And so, by the time I was really unemployed and I was going to go through something, so I was just kind of sharing my story and all that stuff. And yeah, that was just kind of like a little experimental kind of fun thing that I did at the time. Yeah.
What about your creativity school? I remember that I came across some of your brochures and flyers back about 6 years ago here, and I was fascinated by some of the projects you're undertaking, the Creativity School. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the Creativity School was a platform where we're going to essentially help people kind of tap into their creativity and, sort of harness those creative skills and stuff like that. Unfortunately, we ran out of money.
Okay.
So, it kind of died. But I think, creativity is something that I use all the time, even in my consulting practice and all that stuff, especially when it comes to problem solving. I have to really think on my feet. So I think I don't regret that chapter of my life. I think it, taught me a lot. And when it ended, it wasn't the best feeling in the world, but life has to go on. So.
And then also back then, I remember being fascinated by the work you were doing because everybody else that I was familiar with was building either a fintech app or some kind of web app, but you were building an app around the idea of confidence. Just about that and why it's so important a subject to you.
Yes, so I think, okay. To be honest, I wouldn't do a fintech because I can't compensate my life. So, it wouldn't really suit me. But I think I could really relate to people who didn't feel so good, about themselves or whatever, especially like younger adults. So I wanted to create this platform where they can kind of, get like a boost out of every day, stay encouraged and stay motivated and keep going. Yeah. I
also noticed that you're a publisher.
Yeah.
I have a have a thing for publishers. I usually feature and review books. How to be confident, and how to sell. Tell us about those books. How can people get access to them, and what are they about?
Yeah. So how to be confident is basically how to be confident. Through kind of my eyes. And so it's just kind of my own observations on, how to project confidence and how to, even when you're not exactly feeling your best, how to keep your head, how to keep your composure and, kind of keep going, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. And then I noticed also as well that you spent some time in South Africa.
Yes.
What was that like? How would you compare the landscape there to Uganda? Well, I hear it's a lot more competitive and a lot more opportunities. But what's your perspective?
So my time in South Africa was very transformative for me personally. I moved there when I was 19, so I was very young, and I didn't know this at the time, but a lot of people were opposed to my going because they felt like I hadn't grown up enough. I was too soft,
Yeah.
they're going to eat me alive. But my parents just kind of let me go, and so I moved to a different country at 19. And obviously I have relatives there, but for most of it was kind of my own independence, and I was now in charge of my life
Yeah.
at the time. So a lot of growing up happened in those 4 years. I was exposed to so many people, so many different lifestyles, so many different things. And yes, it is more competitive. So it really taught me how to stay sharp, how to stay on my feet, because culturally they're a bit different from us. Here we're a bit more socially conservative. They're a bit more socially liberal, and as such, feel free to say certain things. So especially when they're very critical of leadership and very critical of things when they feel like they've been treated unfairly, they'll speak up. So I really learned how to be vocal, how to be, not to take things for granted, especially your freedoms. That's something that I learned because, over there they had apartheid was overturned in 1994. A lot of us were born in those years. So, it's exposed me to so many different things. Yeah.
Okay. Now, in terms of you've been building for a while now, maybe over like 8 years or more.
Yeah.
Confidence app. Now, of course, your new platform. What are some of your perspectives on the ecosystem in Uganda in terms of like the hubs, the government response and assistance, fellow founders, maybe venture capital? I noticed, for example, that for your previous work and for your previous projects, there was a gap in terms of the funding that you would have been great if you had to push your projects forward. So I'm curious, what are your perspectives? What do you think we can use a little bit more of for our founders and our young developers?
So I think for our young founders, I think something, especially when it comes to venture capital, an unfortunate reality is that, we Africans and East Africans really, and Uganda specifically, I think, are held to kind of a higher standard because we are kind of away from the other parts of Nairobi, in Kigali and Ghana and all these other places. So location does play a big role into your access into some of these things. And so because I was talking to someone, I won't name who it was, but and he told me point blank, like, listen, I'm going to tell you the truth. The bar for you is a lot higher. So, and it's not a case of discrimination. I have to be very clear when I say that. It's a case of you're from a region where not a lot, in terms of like headlines and press or whatever attention come out of there. So you're looked at as more risky. You're a more risky investment rather than people in these, these hubs and these clusters. Like, okay, yeah, maybe we can go do that. So I think that's why the bar is not high. You have to kind of really push and break through and notice. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay. Now, in terms of how people can interact with you, maybe how people can get access to your app, because I know there's quite a number of opportunities in the hiring space. How can people get in touch with you? How can people access your platform, and tell us a lot more about, of course, your socials as well?
Okay, so on my socials, on Instagram, I'm at Fredrick Kyomya. TikTok, we have at Ploy.ai. Also, to access our Ploy.ai platform, you can go to Ploy.ai.co. So that's Ploy.ai.co. Then you'll see all our job boards and opportunities that we have there.
Thank you very much, Fredrick, for taking your time to be with us to record this podcast. I hope we can connect with you a little later to find out a lot more about what you've done. And then, of course, looking forward to featuring you in our magazine and reviewing your books.
Thank you so much for having me.
Intersection Magazine Podcast.